Hi guys, John. Outside today. It's a lovely morning. It's it's about 10:45 in the morning, and it's like 95 degrees. So that's part of the fun of living in Florida. But we're gonna do a bit of a challenge today. We're gonna be painting a sample for one of my art classes. I teach with wine and canvas, and we're gonna be painting this sample today. I would like to do it quickly. So that's my challenge today. I take about 3 hours to teach this class to a group of people. So I think I could probably do it in an hour. So we're going to challenge ourselves and see if we can do it in an hour. Before we start, a couple things to go over. Here's my paint. I've got it to the side here. I've got some more samples. I've got 3 brushes. I don't know if I intend on using them all. I've got some water. I've got on sunscreen and bug spray. Mom and Dad, don't worry about it. And a nice hat because this sun's going to kill me if I'm not wearing one. So we're going to jump right into it. Once again, this is the sample that I'm doing. I've got it back here behind you, so I might have to step off of the frame to check it out every once in a while. But I think that's enough. We're going to start the timer. Hour starts in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right, just give myself a quick glance at it one more time, and we're gonna get started. So I've got, like I said, 3 brushes, small, medium, and large. I'm gonna start with the biggest brush I've got, and we're just gonna do a background. So the top of this painting is teal, and then it bleeds into blue, and then it bleeds into some green, I believe. Yeah, more or less. So we're gonna start up top with our teal. It's just a nice color to start with, in my opinion. I'm gonna add a little bit of white to some spots here. So this is water we're painting with our manatees, and I don't think water looks very good if it's all one color. We want some streaks through it. And so I'm gonna go teal to about here, then it'll be dark blue to about here, and then I'll fill the bottom in with some tannin, green, and things like that. So it looks like the ocean floor. Continuing on, maybe a little bit of white here. And this is really, right now, just a base coat. I'll probably go back later at some point and make it a little more interesting. Make sure, while I'm thinking about it, this is a gallery wrapped canvas. What that means is the canvas goes around the edge. And so when I'm teaching these classes, that's something I bring up to people all the time. Make sure you paint the sides of your canvas. I never remember to. I always forget about it, and it always bites me in the end, because then I have to go through and paint the sides at the end when I'm finished, and it's hard to not get paint on the front while you're painting around the sides. Same thing with the top. And I'll paint the bottom after the painting is dry. I will flip it upside down, you know. You can kind of see here, I'm not covering it all the way. What that means is either I don't have enough paint or I don't have enough water on my brush. I don't want it to be dripping wet, but I do need a little bit of water on it. Okay. There's our teal. I'm going to come around the top. And this back side. The reason I paint the sides of this is that I would rather spend the 3 minutes to paint the sides so that they look nice than spend who knows how much on a canvas frame. Canvas frames are expensive. They got to be so thick. I'm getting into my dark blue now. This color isn't super thick. So there's a term called opacity, I talk about this all the time, but in case this is your first time hearing the word opacity, how opaque something is means how see-through it is, or how not see-through it is. So something that's completely opaque, for example, would be a brick wall. You can't see through a brick wall at all. Something that's entirely transparent would be, for example, glass. Not perfectly transparent. You can still see glass, but it's effectively transparent. And so some paints are more opaque than others, just naturally. White, for example, is a very opaque color. So if you have another color, like this blue or yellow, that's pretty translucent, which is somewhere in between opaque and transparent, you can add some white to it, and that will make it less translucent and more opaque. Okay. So there's those two. And now I'm going to jump into green. I'm going to start with light green toward the top where the water starts, and then I'm going to go into a dark green toward the bottom. Most of this will be covered up later, but I got to start somewhere. So we're going to start with a nice light green. I might add a little bit of yellow to it because this green's pretty aggressive. Yeah, that's a good color. And I'm doing this quickly while it's wet so that the colors blend together. Okay. Let's get a little more green. Once again, I'm making sure to cover the sides while I'm doing it. Okay. A little more green. A little more yellow, a little less white. Still painting the sides. I might speed through a couple spots here. If there's not really much going on or I don't have much to say, I might just stay quiet and play some music for you and time-lapse through it. But I'm gonna keep this timer, I think it's probably up here. I'm gonna keep this timer up here the whole time, because I can do it where when I speed through time, the timer speeds up as well. So we'll have an accurate reading of how long this painting takes me. I tried this once before, and I didn't pick a good painting. And so that one will never exist. I really screwed myself because I didn't, like I said, I didn't pick a good painting for what I was trying to do. I picked a painting where the background was bluer like this, and the foreground was yellow. Well, when I'm trying to do it in an hour, I don't have enough time to wait for the background to dry. So all of my yellows got nasty green. So I just trashed it, essentially. It's no big deal. It didn't take that much time to do. The first one took me about 40 or 52 minutes maybe. So it wasn't like the end of the world. We're gonna come through here. Like I said earlier, add some details. This is just with white, maybe a little teal and mixed into it. This is just to make the water look a little more interesting. Now I'll bring some teal into the dark blue, pull some dark blue up into the teal. You know, just make it interesting. I'm making sure to keep my brush turned this way as opposed to this way so that I get thinner lines. Water, you may have heard before, water always finds its level. Not exactly true. but it's always pulled directly down. So it usually is pretty flat. And so a good shortcut to make something look like water is to paint it horizontally as opposed to vertically. Water doesn't often go vertically unless it's on a waterfall, I guess. But we're not painting a waterfall today, so that's not something we have to concern ourselves with. Okay, I'm cleaning my brush here. That is the first section. I got to go through, I'm just checking my painting now. My next couple steps are gonna be adding some seagrass, adding some water, like some more white lines in the water, and some bubbles. Then we're gonna throw our manatees in there toward the end. So let's start with the bubbles. I think will be a good starting point. So I'm grabbing my medium-sized brush here. Clean it out a little bit. And I'm going to go into white. Bubbles are really easy. So I'm going to take white. I'm going to do a circle. Maybe I'll do a circle over here. Now these aren't perfect circles. It's not the end of the world. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some lines into the center of the circle. Just like that. Bubbles, super simple. Nothing too crazy. I don't have to think too hard about them. Ooh, the sun is hot. Maybe we'll put one here. And I think I want to put one right up at the top. I try, when I'm making a painting, to have odd numbers of things. Just because I like the way that odd numbers look better. So I'm going to make sure that I'm coming through here. And then I've got an odd number of bubbles. I think this guy's a little thick, so I'm going to take some of my teal, soften him up a little bit, thin him out. Cool. And we'll come back in here, round his edges a little better. And so another thing, bubbles are super reflective. And so toward the bottom of these bubbles, I'm going to put a little bit of dark blue, maybe a little bit of green, to show that it's reflecting the stuff below it. Cool. We'll do a little bit of green here too, maybe. You don't have to be super exact when making bubbles, because they'll give the effect of a bubble pretty easily. That's one of the things I talk about all the time when I'm painting is in most cases, there are some artists who paint basically photos, but in most cases, a painting is supposed to look like a painting. So I'm never too concerned with getting exactly what it looks like in real life, because I'm not trying to make a picture. I'm trying to make a painting. So we're going to come in here now and do some seagrass. So I've got my green and my yellow and a little tiny bit of white. And we're going to come through here and just go like this. Yep. Just like that. That's all. Maybe a little more green. Cool. And now you see I'm going pretty fast when I'm making these. That's intentional. Because I'm trying to be confident with my strokes. Cool. I'd say that I'm happy with that. Maybe one guy here, one here. make him a little more green. Oh, monarch just flew by. I don't know if you caught that on camera. We've got a bunch of milkweed in our yard here. So there's monarchs here all the time. We were doing some research, and in order to consider yourself a monarch sanctuary, you have to have at least 10 individual milkweed plants. And we were counting, and we have like 12 or 15. So we could apply to be a butterfly sanctuary, which is so cool. Okay, so I'm gonna add some white streaks into my water just so that it's closer to the original. And then we're gonna jump into the manatees. I think we're making great time. I wish I looked at what time I started. Once again, I'm not being too crazy about accuracy. I'm just going in confidently. You see I'm going quick. When I'm doing smooth strokes like this, I'm using my whole arm. When I use just my fingers, I only get a small little movement. If I use just my wrist, it's a little bigger. Just my elbow, or just my arm, you see how big this area I can paint is. So it makes it so that I can make nice smooth lines without having to worry about readjusting and making changes to my hand position. I can just go. It's a big deal. Something that it's not that artists don't talk about it, but it's something that's not necessarily intuitive if you're not in the headspace of an artist. I'm just going to do the same kind of deal with blue, just toward the bottom here. Give me some more interest in my background. Cool. All right, so we're going to jump to the manatees. It's actually nice doing a speed painting outside because the paint dries so much faster. So in our picture, I'll throw it up here again. We've got a baby manatee on this side and a big manatee on that side. Sides don't matter, but I'm going to try to make it like the painting. So let's start with blocking in the baby. And so the base color for these guys looks to be kind of a lighter purple color. I didn't put purple on my palette, but I've got blue and red, so I can make purple. So I'm going to go in with blue and red. That's going to start making me a purple. And then we'll add some white to it to lighten it up. And there we go. We got a nice light purple. I don't know how well you can see that. We got a nice light purple here. That's going to be our starting color. And so, manatee, let's see here. We've got our teardrop has a tail. Yep, just like that. Let's give it some fins. Now I'm just getting it down with the base color. We'll have to go in and change some of these colors later, but that's not the end of the world. It's pretty easy to do. I just want to get them in the spot that they belong. One fin. Second fin doesn't protrude a ton, but it does just enough that we got to add it. Then one fin two, and let's give them a nose. Okay, there's our first manatee. Looks pretty good. Now let's put the second one in here. Same deal, I just got to mix up some more purple. And this guy's going to be a little bigger. I hope this wasn't in your way the whole time that I was doing this. I'm not really paying attention to what... Oh, you definitely saw that one. That monarch fly by. Okay, let's give him his fin. something cool about manatees, obviously they're mammals, which means they have hair, they produce milk, give live birth. I think those are the qualifications to be a mammal. Typically, you know, obviously not every mammal has hair. There are humans with like alopecia that don't have hair. But that's the consensus stipulations to be a mammal, I'm pretty sure. So manatees do have hair. They're little tiny hairs all over their body. You can see them when you're up close to them. But also, something that's cool that a lot of people probably wouldn't have even thought of is manatees have fingernails. On their little fins, they actually have fingernails, which is so cool to me. When you see them in person, if you ever go to a zoo or an aquarium and you see some manatees, check out their fins. They've got fingernails on their flippers.
And that was Fun Facts with John.
Okay, so there's our base. We're going to go in now with some more details. I'm going to start with a dark purple color. So we're going to mix that purple like we did earlier, but I'm not going to lighten it with my white. Ooh, I'm getting a little low on red here. I'm going to re-up on my red. I don't need a ton of red, just a little. Okay, we got a dark purple. And so we're going to go underbelly here. He's got some wrinkles. We've got some darkness here. And so I'm using my big brush here, but when I'm teaching this class, I tell people it's important that you're comfortable when painting. That's the easiest way to make a good painting, is to be comfortable while making it. So whenever I'm using a certain brush here, I tell people I'm using this brush, but you can use the biggest brush that you're comfortable using. So I want to get done quickly, especially when I'm teaching one of these classes. I want to get done super quickly so that I can be running around and helping people. So I'm using the biggest brush I can comfortably use, which is usually the biggest brush we have. But most people that take these classes, they're not artists. So they're not used to using these brushes all the time. And so I explain to them, just use whatever's comfortable. Okay. That looks pretty good. And what you see me doing there, I'm backing up a little bit and I'm squinting my eyes. And what that does is, I call it the squint test. I talk about this in every video as well. It lets me, butterfly, it lets me see the painting as a whole, as opposed to the individual brush strokes. And so I'm constantly doing that when I'm painting. I'm going to cover this guy up because we're going to go back in and paint the fins over top. I'm constantly using the squint test when I'm painting so that I can see the whole picture. So nobody's going to look at this as closely as I am while I'm making it. It's just that's how it works. Nobody will ever look at a painting as closely as the person who made the painting, because, you know, I've been here the whole time making it. So I know every brush stroke that goes into this. But somebody who comes in after the fact, they don't. And so it's not something I have to worry about. Them checking it out in excruciating detail is not something I have to be concerned with. Okay. I'm going to scale down just because it'll make my life a little easier. I'm going to go back into my lighter purple, and we're going to pull some of these details in front of our shadows. And so the front fin on each of these guys is in the light. We'll do one of those numbers. Same thing for this guy. His front fin doesn't exactly go out of his silhouette. So I'm just going to do it inside the body. Okay. We will do the same thing with their snouts. So the snout is kind of like a really soft bean shape, or a very, very soft heart. I say the mouth, it's more like the face. The snout, maybe? Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna come through here, add a couple wrinkly details. So I already did the dark spot of the wrinkle, now I'll do the light spot of the wrinkle. That quacking you hear in the background is our pet ducks. That's Pip that's making all the noise. She's a big pekin, just like the Aflac duck. Okay, so there's the base of purple. And in the original, we then come through and make some colorful spots on them. So we'll do that here. I'm gonna go with my medium-sized brush. I think it's gonna be the perfect size for what I'm trying to do. And we'll start with some light teal. So I've got my teal that I've already used. I'm gonna add some white to it to lighten it up a touch. You can see here's the original, here's what I lightened up, and I'm gonna add some spots. We'll go along the nose here. Along the back. I'm not being too careful about consistency of spacing. When something like that is super consistent, it sticks out to us, and I don't want these to stick out that much. Okay, let's add some teal spots onto this guy. Same deal, roughly the same area. Put down here. Okay, now we'll go in with a little bit more of a pinky. It's not quite pink, it's not quite purple, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. That's what it appears to be to me. And we'll add some of these in there. And on the little guy, nice. And they also added some bright greens. So we'll do that as well. Yellow and green. Make a light green color. Mostly yellow. Same deal. Okay, maybe a little less yellow than that. Come on, Johnson. Yeah, that looks nice. Huh? Okay. So now we're at the fun part, adding the finishing detail touches. So I've got my littlest brush. I could do this with a bigger brush, but it's it's easier to do it with this guy. So we're going to go back into our deep purple color. It looks like the original might have used a little bit of black, but for the sake of my palette, as you can see, I'm just going to go with my deep purple. So it should stand out nicely enough. A little too wet there. Might have to mix a little more. It's hard mixing with these little brushes, so you got to be careful. We'll give him a couple eyes like that. Same goes for the baby. A couple eyes like that. He's got some nostrils. It's like a little C shape almost. And then we can define his mouth a little bit better. So we're going to come up here, just like that. And I'll use this little brush while I've got it to kind of go in and add some finishing detail touches to things that I think need a little bit more love. It's like maybe I'll define this guy a little better. I'll add this guy's mouth in before I forget, because I will forget. Maybe fix his back fin a little bit. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, let's see here. A couple finishing touches. Like I said, manatees are mammals. They do have hair. Let's give him some whiskers. How about that? So I'm going to go mostly white here. There might be a couple extra colors on it, but they're not there on purpose. They just happen to be there. Treat it like a happy accident. I think I've heard that somewhere before. Yeah, I get told all the time that I look like Bob Ross. Harder to tell with my hair in a hat right now. But it's pretty afro-y. Maybe we'll lighten up around his eyes a little bit. Same thing with his nose. A little highlight on his chin. I'm going to come in here and add just various highlights. Nothing too interesting. I just think that this would look nice with some more highlights. Squint test again, doing my squint test. When I do my squint test, the big guy's back fin is too big. And so what I'm gonna do is take my medium brush. I'm gonna try to get kind of a halfway between teal and blue. And I'm gonna cut his fin off a tad. One of the issues with painting in the sun like this is my paint's drying really quick. The stuff on my palette is drying really quick. Okay, so that's covered. And now we come back in with our dark purple, and we'll redefine this shape a tad. I'm going to redefine his body as well. Give him a little more girth. So he's a manatee, so he's a big boy. Yep, I'm way happier with that. And I think the opposite for the little guy. I think his back fin needs to be a tad longer. And that's what these squint tests really can do for you, is they'll help you to see the whole painting at once. So you can make adjustments on the fly like that. All right, I'm gonna check out my sample, see if there's anything I'm missing. Not really, but I think what would be nice is if we maybe made some seagrass in the foreground. So I'm going to go into my green that I was using earlier, for my seagrass. Maybe we'll have some grass overlapping our manatees. Oh yeah, that's gonna do a lot. That's really gonna put the manatees into the painting. Cool. I'm happy with this. Maybe we will add 1 or 2 more bubbles. I might even do some small bubbles. So I'm going to get my little brush here. Go into my white. My white's pretty dirty, but that's fine, remember, because bubbles have... Let's make his nose making some bubbles, huh? So we'll go bubble. Couple more whiskers on this guy, just for S's and G's, and we'll call it done there. And so the final step is we always sign a painting. A lot of people will initial with a paintbrush. I hate trying to do letters with a paintbrush because my name is John Johnson. So J's, curvy shapes like that, are annoying with a paintbrush. So I always have one of these white Posca pens on me. So I'm going to use this as a sign. Right down here, see if you can see this. Sign and date, and time. I don't know how I did. We'll look. I can kind of see how long the video took. Oh, video is 40 minutes. That means I took even less time to paint it. So I think that that is a resounding success. I did this in less than 45 minutes. Forget an hour. I might have done it under 30. Okay, that's probably too much. I'm getting carried away. Maybe 35, 37. I don't know exactly. But something like that feels about right to me. That's it. I hope that you enjoyed following along with this. If you did, please like, subscribe, send this video to your friends. You know, it really makes a difference to the channel when people are liking and interacting with the posts, because then YouTube sees that and it sends it out to more people. And then more people see it and hopefully they also interact. And then it sends it to more people. I don't need to explain to you how YouTube works. If you're watching this video, you probably already know how YouTube works. But I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun stuff. And that being said, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.